Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Caden Kubler and welcome to Caden's Corner. We are 3 weeks into the NFL season and the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the last remaining undefeated teams in the league. Now this is a shock to most people, but the Steelers have seemingly found their quarterback, they have an elite defense, and they're sitting nice at 3-0. And we know this Steelers style of football that they've been playing the last few years. They rely on this dominant defense, they keep the games close, physical, and dirty, and the offense just does enough to win these close games. And that's exactly what AFC North football is for you. We saw in week 1 Pittsburgh go on the road against the Atlanta Falcons, and TJ Watt single-handedly took over this game, getting after Kirk Cousins all afternoon. But it's on the offensive side of the ball where people are really excited about this team. They added 2 quarterbacks this offseason in Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, but before the year started, Wilson went down with a calf injury, and this meant it was time for Justin Fields to revitalize his career, and he's done exactly that. Fields has this Pittsburgh team undefeated, the locker room loves him, and he has taken full advantage of this new opportunity. I know everything is going great in the Steel City, but personally, I am not sold on this team, and I think they're one of the most fraudulent teams in the entire league, and they'll be exposed in due time. Now, let me preface this before everybody gets mad and runs into my comments. The Steelers have an elite defense. This unit is legit. They've been elite the last few years, and they've kept them in ball games that they shouldn't have even been in. I think it's safe to say that TJ Watt is the best defensive player on the planet, and nobody can block him, and he single-handedly wrecks games. And we saw the same formula with the Steelers last year. Have a great defense that keeps you in low-scoring, dirty games, but once the playoffs come around and you play a high-flying offense like the Buffalo Bills, you're going to get exposed and they're going to put 31 points on the board. And I remember how people were talking about this team heading into the playoffs. They won 3 straight games. People were saying that this defense combined with this scary run game could really give Buffalo a run for their money, and they got dominated. But people are really convinced this is a new year for the Steelers and this new look team is back, but I'm not sold on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, they're 3-0. They've won 3 close games where the offense hasn't needed to excel. Let's go through the 3 weeks here. In week 1, this offense didn't score 1 touchdown and they won off of 6 field goals against the Falcons. Everybody began overreacting with how excited they were that Justin Fields got this week 1 win against a good team in the Falcons. But it's alright, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. It was week 1, maybe they had some rust, maybe it gets better in week 2. Well, hey, this time they actually scored a touchdown, but they only scored 1 of them. They actually only put up 13 points in total. And they were playing the trash Broncos, who have a rookie quarterback, and of course this defense was able to get after him. And in this most recent week, they really lit up the scoreboard, putting up 20 points, and Justin Herbert had to get hurt for this team to pull away and win. If you can't tell, I'm not impressed at all with this offense's performance through the first 3 weeks. It's always been so crazy to me how people will write teams off or people will crown teams champions so early on in the season. This offense is bottom 10 in yards per game and in points per game. They've only scored 3 touchdowns through 3 weeks as well. This isn't sustainable for a team to continue to beat down on mediocre or average teams. But like I said earlier in the video, in due time it'll catch up with them. Let's look at this final 8-week stretch that they have on their schedule. Looking at these 8 opponents, this might be one of the most brutal stretches in an 8-week period in NFL history. Now, before I hop into this, let me say this. I know the AFC North hasn't exactly started the way that everybody thought they would. The Ravens are 1-2 right now. The Bengals are 0-3, but they can still easily bounce back, and the AFC North is still a bloodbath. But we'll start in week 11 here. They'll play the Ravens at home, the team that had the #1 seed in the AFC last year. Lamar Jackson won the MVP. I don't need to tell you anymore. The Steelers are going to be a big-time underdog in this game. Then they'll have a short week on Thursday Night Football where they'll go on the road against Cleveland in a tough matchup. And then in week 13, they'll have to go on the road against Cincinnati for a tough matchup. The week after that, they get Cleveland at home this time in week 14. The week after that, in week 15, they go on the road against Philadelphia. The week after that, on the road against Baltimore again. The week after that, they play the reigning defending 2-time champions at home, though, in the Kansas City Chiefs. And then they'll finish off their schedule with the Cincinnati Bengals, all in an 8-week period. 8 teams that are either playoff contenders or legitimate Super Bowl contenders. I think the Steelers would be lucky to win 2 games out of these final 8, and to be honest with you, they're going to be an underdog in probably every single one of them. So let people crown the Pittsburgh Steelers champions right now. They're 3-0. They're going to continue to beat down on average to mediocre teams until they face this gauntlet of a schedule. This Pittsburgh Steelers team that we're watching right now reminds me so much of the team a few years ago with Ben Roethlisberger that went 8-0. Everybody was so excited about them. Everybody was already crowning them Super Bowl champions as they were the last remaining undefeated team. Well, they'd go on in the playoffs to get boat raced by Baker Mayfield and the Browns and lose. At the end of the day, there are two things going on here. Number one is that this offense is not good enough to compete with the high-flying offenses in the AFC. Justin Fields and this team can't compete with a Josh Allen, with the Patrick Mahomes, with a Lamar Jackson, with a Joe Burrow. And we saw it in the postseason last year, and if they make it this year, which I don't think they will, we'll see the same exact result. And number two, I think it looks really great that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But did you know that he has the longest drought for a playoff win by any active head coach? Mike Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game since 2017. Any other coach that hasn't done that has gotten canned. The Steelers have been really consistent at being above average for the past 7 years and nothing more than that. You guys are going to be mad at me with this take about Justin Fields in the quarterback position, but the same people were mad at me last year when I was calling out Kenny Pickett, saying that he wasn't a top 20 quarterback in the NFL, and how did that turn out? I'm not sold on Justin Fields, and I'm not sold on this team at all. I believe that Mike Tomlin will have his first losing season as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. I'm Caden Kubler, and that's my take.